What is up, folks? Mio Adlan here once again with another session of Hot Issue. What's for lunch? Happy Monday, folks. Hari Isnin, hari permulaan setiap minggu diharapkan anda semua yang berada di mana jua anda berada dalam keadaan aman dan damai. Yes, of course, we were given a very shocking news yesterday when the country announced that yesterday alone we had 17,000 new COVID cases. It is a very scary thought indeed. Sangat-sangat menakutkan, tapi apa yang kita boleh buat, kita hanya boleh bersabar, kita hanya boleh follow SOP yang telah ditetapkan. We can just follow the rules and regulations. Do not go out if you do not have to. If you are out, make sure you guys wear your mask, make sure you guys bring your hand sanitizers and clean your hands as much as you can, and also keep your physical distancing between yourself and the others as well. So, of course, for today's hot issue, What's for lunch, we have a very, very interesting topic in mind. Kita ada topik yang sangat menarik. Tapi kalau tak sah sebenarnya, kalau saya tak memperkenalkan partner saya ni ataupun rakan bersama-sama untuk kita mengupas for us to talk about today's hot issue. Ladies and gents, as always, Mr. Melvin Lam. Hey, Melvin, what is up?
Hi, good afternoon. How's the weekend? How's the weekend for everyone?
Weekend, myself, weekend was good. It was more of a resting day, chill, relax. Granted, now every day is resting day, right? Because you can't really go out, right? Just stay at home.
It's not actually resting mentally. It's very tiring and very stressful when we all always watch out for the afternoon's report, how many cases for the day, how many deaths for the day. So mentally exhausted.
Yeah, we try to calm ourselves with the little things in life. Kita cuba sebenarnya nak menceriakan diri kita dengan sebaik mungkin, walaupun keadaan sekarang ni memang, it's not really a good time to live right now, but we're trying the best that we can in living within these testing times. Speaking about testing times, Melvin, we have a very interesting issue today that we're going to be talking about, is that we are going to be talking about sexual harassment. Now, that's a very serious issue, isn't it, Melvin?
Yes, that's been from many years, and I think about 2-3 months ago it was brought up, it was highlighted, it was a hot issue then. But I guess of course the media now has not been playing to so-called to highlight the issue, but I think it still continues everywhere, every moment in Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about sexual harassment, specifically what is happening in our country. But it's not just going to be me and Melvin alone this time, because why we have a very special guest. Ladies and gents, may I introduce to you Dr. Tanusha Francis Xavier, who is the VP of Malaysian United Democratic Alliance. How are you, Dr. Tanusha? Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you
Hi, good afternoon.
for having me here with y'all today.
Thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us for What's for Lunch. But before we go on, have you had your lunch yet?
No, not yet. We've just passed the 12 o'clock noon mark. It's too early.
Have you ordered your nasi ganja?
Yeah, ordered and waiting. So after this, I will dig in. And it's not nasi ganja.
All right. So we do hope at least that at least Melvin and myself could be a bit of an appetizer for you before you actually have your main course later on. So now, Dr. Tanusha, let's talk about sexual harassment. I believe that Melvin would want to kick things off with our topic today. Melvin, balls in your court.
Oh yes, this sexual harassment is always a hot topic. It's something that is ongoing, and I don't know how. Probably doctor can share with us your opinion. How do we put a stop to it? Because ever since I've been 50 years in the so-called living, this topic has never been so-called solved. As I also got the report, the latest report from 2019 from U Government Omnibus, that they surveyed 1,000 respondents and showed that 36% of women and 17% of men of Malaysians have experienced sexual harassment. So this is a big percentage. So I'd like to know doctor, what is your opinion?
Okay, like maybe we can start off by like actually defining what constitutes as sexual harassment. Because I feel like the traditional understanding or concept of what we have of it is that like, oh, in order to be for it to be considered as sexual harassment, there has to be physical contact. Like what we say, like, oh, meraba, touching the shoulder, or grabbing the hand or grabbing the arm. Only then it's like actual harassment. But actually, it's not just that. Sexual harassment can be in any form that makes the other person feel offended or feel violated or even just feel uncomfortable. So, what are the examples? Of course, I think clear cut lah. Everyone understands that if there is physical contact, like grabbing the hand and things like that, is direct sexual harassment. But also, another form of it is verbally, saying inappropriate things. That is harassment. Or there's another one where it's psychological. You know how like people stalk you on social media to make you feel like you are constantly followed, or maybe every single time they will just DM you, hello, 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 consistently trying to stalk you and make you feel uncomfortable. All of that comes under sexual harassment. It can even be insinuation, in the sense that like they maybe wink at you or make sexual gestures. They don't even need to say anything, just doing hand movements and things like that, implying sexual innuendo and stuff like that. All of that is sexual harassment. So I think we should start off our conversation by actually addressing that this goes way bigger than just touch. There's all of it is valid. So if you're watching and this is happening to you, you are being harassed. It is valid. You're not overreacting. You're not exaggerating it in your mind. It is real.
Okay, I do have a question in regards of what you have just answered there, because you said that sexual harassment is, it can be verbal as well when people say some things. Even one of our viewers actually just stated that is hello pretty sexual harassment in any shape or form. Because why, Dr. Tanusha? I do want to get your clarification, at least your opinion. Some people say it's just harmless flirtation. So what is the fine line between being flirtatious and being harassing another human being? So where's the line drawn there? Your opinion?
This is like an age-old debate lah. This is a conversation I have with my friends as well, both from male friends and female friends about this thing. Okay, so firstly, if you are in a position of power, meaning that if you are the person's direct supervisor, direct boss, team leader, group monitor, whatever, at whatever level, if you have a position of power over the individual, you have no business complimenting them in any way or form, because it is a form of harassment. That is straight up. The second thing, going back to how we just defined the concept of sexual harassment, if the other person feels uncomfortable, offended, so on, even if your initiative was only just to say hello, it is harassment. These people who DM by saying hello, 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 and the other person is not responding and not interested, harassment, clear cut. If you are DMing and say hello, I think you're really pretty, and the person is responding by saying, really, you think so, I really appreciate it, and the conversation starts going, clear cut is not harassment, because it is reciprocated, your compliment is accepted, and you are moving along in the conversation. But if you say hello, the person doesn't respond, again you say hello, you keep pressuring, you send 20 hellos, that is harassment.
Perseverance, Doc.
No.
So you felt harassed now when Mio say that you look beautiful this morning, today?
Yeah, was that a harassment then? I mean, like, because you know why? Because if you're good looking, you can get away with it. But if you're not good looking, if you're nerdy, if you're ugly, if you are all messed up, most of the time the ladies, I mean, like, again, I'm not generalizing this, but you get offended when an unattractive person says all these kind of things. But if someone with a six-pack, someone with a lock of golden hair who is like so macho, 6'5", for instance, then you feel like, oh, he's so handsome, he just said hi to me. That's where I get confused, Doctor.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Mior, because I have never felt differently about a compliment coming from an ugly person, as you put it, and as a good-looking person. To me, I treasure it the same. Where I do not appreciate it is when it comes in a form of harassment. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, like
Sure.
earlier you mentioned that you complimented me. Okay, you did it in a setting where, you know, we were about to go live and you say, oh, doctor, you look really nice today. We are going to start a live. So and I took it as like, oh, that's so thoughtful of him because, you know, because we're going to go live, he wants to make me feel comfortable. He appreciates that I put in effort to look nice today. That's great. And it stops there. You did not like, okay, DM me to say that like, oh, you look really pretty. Like, you know, I think that, you know, we should like go out and all that. And it's fine if I reciprocate and say like, oh, Mio, I think you're handsome too. Like, you know, maybe we could go out. But if I do not reply, or if I just ignore you and you keep sending it again and again and again, that's when it translates to harassment. I think always this debate comes about like, oh, but then like, how do we know if we are harassing or not? You know from the way the other person responds to you if they're interested or not. No one is that ignorant.
I guess it's there are points that if you get someone upset and they do not respond, but sometimes I also feel let's say a pat on the shoulder, well done. I think if it's guy to guy, I think it's they might not take it as a sexual harassment. But if let's say it's a coach, it's a guy who says to his students is supposed to happens to be a female, say, oh, well done, a pat on the shoulder. Is it right or wrong?
You see, that's when, like earlier I said, if you are in a position of power and authority over someone, the reason why they say like if you have a position of power authority, just avoid it. Because if let's say this person, okay, like you mentioned, like if it's a coach or a teacher and you're patting on the shoulder for the student, if the student feels uncomfortable, are they really in a position of power and authority to say, hey coach, don't touch me? It's a lot harder. You know, I'm not saying that conduct is wrong, but the reason why that layer of prevention is there is because the student or the person who is not in the position of power. Okay, for example, if I am the boss and you are my subordinate and you touch me and say, oh, good job, Tanusha, and if I feel uncomfortable, I got no problem telling you, hey, don't touch me, because, you know, I have authority. But if you are my boss, you have control over, let's say, my promotion or my income and everything, and maybe it is harmless and you just touch me to say, oh, good job, but I don't feel comfortable. I am not comfortable with, you know, a man touching me and so on. Do I really have that safe space to, you know, to say that like, hey boss, don't? What if later that becomes a factor in not giving me that promotion or you know, something that comes along the way? So that's why that guideline is there. And we are not yet in a level of society where men and women feel brave and comfortable enough to speak up. You know, that has never been something that yet that has been trained in our culture to say that it doesn't matter, you know, you can go ahead and touch, because if the person feel uncomfortable, they will speak up. That is not our culture yet. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, like taking exactly that particular point, because I just want to take us back to when Melvin was a young man, when he was much more of a teenager back then. This particular issue was never really an issue. Is it just because that people didn't highlight it, people didn't shout out? Because I know for a fact that even in the yesteryears, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s even, these sexual harassment cases was already happening. A lot of things were already happening. It's just that people didn't voice out their concern or didn't voice out their complaint as much because maybe they thought that it was a cultural thing. But why is it right now that people are now opening up even more to highlight these kind of issue? Doctor, what do you think?
Okay, so now we are entering into the stigma, right? So I feel that like one key game changer here has been social media. With the internet, the world of internet and different social media platforms, that has given us an avenue to feel connected globally, not just within our community, to find people who have like similar stories and to get that support that is needed. So I feel that's why now it has become, I wouldn't say easier, it is still difficult, but perhaps more accessible for survivors or those who have experienced sexual harassment to come forward with their cases, because there is support out there. It's different if previously it is just, you know, maybe you and a few of your friends, and then you are there in this community, and then like, okay, what do you do? Are you going to go around house to house telling people what happened, or, you know, maybe organize a talk and invite everybody to say that, like, okay, this happened, so what are we going to do? And what if everyone turns against you? So it is still not easy to speak up. Again, we will address the other cultural issues, right? But that is I personally feel the key game changer, because now you can just be in your safe space, in your room or on your bed, and then you feel like, okay, it's time for me to come forward. You just put a tweet or a Facebook post, and it's out there. And yes, you will get messages that attack you, but you will also get a lot of messages of support and solidarity from others to help you to tell your story.
Yeah, I guess yes. Social media plays a big role, and of course, now we're talking about human rights, right? Those years, the yesterday years, human rights is very depressed. They were depressed. There's no human rights. By the time you have slave and all these things, right? But today's world is different. The social platforms actually are able to, for someone that's timid, actually can bring up the issue he or she faced, and there's a lot of supporting groups. But I was always wondering, like Dr. said, is the people on higher authorities of you. Sometimes I'm not able to voice out because my career depends on him or her, and I get all these treatments from him or her. But is there any group out there that able to coach these people in high authority like this, like the bosses or the teachers, to coach them or that what is sexual harassment, something you can do, what you can't do? Because we have instance for this recently we have cases like students being verbally harassed by the school teacher, talking about if you want to rape someone, you have to make sure that they are over 18 years old, or cases in the school that they conduct a private check whether they have so-called their prayers for the prayers. If they are on period, they can't, so they check on the private part. So, but then this is when this subjects brought up. Of course, the society are very annoyed about this. But do we have a ongoing program, to have this teachers, coaches, bosses to go for classes, so-called classes, or that's to let them? Probably sometimes they do not know. Probably these people think, "What I pat on the shoulder of a girl, or she did well. I thought it was an encouragement for her, but this girl thought it's a sexual harassment." So do we have this to reach out to these people?
Yeah. So actually, there are many organizations in our society that have taken up that initiative, and the key one would be Awam. Awam actually conducts training programs for those who are interested, that they come and brief you on sexual harassment and so on. But I personally really think it needs to go a step forward, because I feel that that this issue is still so prevalent here today, because there is still no law in place that is directly addressing that sexual harassment is wrong. And that is what organizations like Awam and others have been pushing for, the anti-sexual harassment bill, where it's clear-cut by law. Right now, there is no clear-cut law that says that sexual harassment is wrong. So once that is in place, it becomes something like stealing. Everybody is clear stealing is wrong. So, you don't steal, you don't accidentally take and keep people's things, because what if they think you're stealing? You respect other people's property. Why? Because there's a law in place, clear cut, you'll go to jail or fine or something. But there isn't that clear line now for sexual harassment. I actually feel that the trigger change would be when that goes into place and becomes law, because that is when even people who do it will start questioning. And then, like what you have just addressed, Melvin, is like to be like, okay, so is this right or wrong? Like, okay, what can I do to be better educated on this to make sure this doesn't happen? Because you can get penalized for it, if you have that way. And definitely for those who know it's wrong and do it, hopefully that would finally be the deterrent.
Yeah.
I actually feel,
I think that should be, the authority should have a program for these so-called higher authority people, from the educations, from sports, especially sports, because I also read stories about the sport persons being harassed when they have this. I'm not a sport person myself, but it seems that after a training or a sports event, they go for muscular massage and all these things. So it takes place there. I think I heard cases that coach massaging the female swimmer and all these things. Which by right I felt that it should not be on opposite sex for that kind of massage. It should be on the same sex massage. If it's a female, allow a female coach to massage a female sport person, vice versa. So this program had to roll out because a lot of people suffer in silence. Yes, we have social media, but a lot of people still are embarrassed to share out. Don't talk about family, even to the closest friends. Let's say the students, they're embarrassed to share out, and this will be lead into mental issue later.
Yeah, interesting topic of what Melvin just actually said there, and then also to catch again on what Dr. Tanusha has actually explained as well. It is very, very indicative for us to actually have a permanent and a decisive law for us to deter ourselves, at least to get away from this and not doing this kind of thing. Because unfortunately, at the end of the day, people will only not do stuff because the fear of getting fined or getting to be put in jail, because apparently nothing else actually works on these kind of human beings, unfortunately. Now, coming back to brass tacks, doctor, should someone, anybody, a woman or a man, a lady, who, whatever it is, get sexually harassed, what should be the thing that they need to do? Because most of the time, I think 9 times out of 10, they would resort to social media. And I believe that should not be their first way to actually, admit, or should I say, report such kind of things, right? Authorities definitely have to come in play, right?
Yeah, no, definitely and absolutely. But you see, that is exactly sort of like what is the hindrance here, because there is, again, no clear-cut law that goes for this. There are laws that say, for example, that, if you outrage the modesty of a person, right, then it comes under that law. But there's no protection in place. What I mean by that is that, okay, let's say if this person now goes and complains to the boss or goes and makes a police report, and then what? There is no protection system for this victim that is reporting. The boss can take action and fire the person, for example. Say that, okay, I investigate already and I gang with my friend and okay, I get rid of her, problematic. There is no protection for that because there's no law.
So are you saying that you should not report to the law because there's nothing that can be done?
I would say keep yourself safe first. I would say that way. I'm not going to come here and be gung-ho and say, no, we have to fight, we have to report. Yes, we should. But I would say keep yourself safe first. Because at the end of the day, after they come forward, after they report, the consequences are on them. This could be a family member, this could be a person of power, etc., etc. I, of course, encourage all victims to come forward. But I first would say keep yourself safe first. Until we have a law in place that can actually protect you and we can do better to protect you, I would say keep yourself safe first. Having said that, if you are ready to come forward, which is great and I encourage it, there are places or societies that can support you, like AWAM, Women's Aid Organization. There are helplines as well that you can call and reach them, and they will actually help you when you make your police report and so on. And if you even need help later to leave your your home or your surrounding, or some support, some legal support and so on, they actually would work with you to help you get there. But I really think it's important to address this part about the consequences and the repercussions, because right now there really is very little legal protection that is in place that actually protects victims.
All right, that's quite pretty sad. There's no legal system.
It's very sad and ridiculous that this is 2021. I actually, to be very honest, didn't even know until like in the last 2-3 years that there isn't a law in place, because to me it's that of course there is, of course it's clear cut wrong. Of course, I just assumed that I would be able to go and sue this person or report the crime, and they would go to jail. Obviously, if they are physically harassing me or verbally harassing me, because it's wrong. But
I mean, like, just to put just to be a bit trying to make this discussion a bit more interesting. because should it become just a verbal harassment, it's just hearsay, isn't it? It's just hearsay. I mean, like, there's no concrete proof unless you have something written, unless you have concrete proof and evidence that somebody has been sexually harassing you, touching you inappropriately, or using vulgar words, in an email or a WhatsApp message or whatnot. If there's none of that, it's just hearsay, and normally the higher hierarchy would always win, right?
Correct. Thank you, Mio, for bringing up that point, because that is another thing that I would advise those who are going through this to do, is to actually document. As you have said, if it's non-verbal, in the sense that, like, if there's a WhatsApp message, keep the screenshot in case they delete the message. If you know that they're going to come by and do weird things, put a hidden camera and record it if it's in your office, for example, and all that. And having said all that, Melvin, like what you said about if it's verbal and there's no proof, it's just the same as now mencuri. Okay, you kept your handphone here and the only other person in the room was that fella, but it's hearsay. But you have the right now to go and make the complaint. Hey, my phone hilang. The only other person that was there that I saw was this person, and it would be up to the authorities to investigate. And then when they search, like, this person actually 10 years ago ada juga case suspicious macam ni, and investigate, and then really that person. So I feel if there's a law in place, that is how it would work. Maybe in this circumstance there was nothing to prove, but when they check the background history, like, oh my god, he's done this in 10 other places to 10 other people, and that is how it works. I know that there is a fear that comes with this type of empowerment, whereby, like, what if I get framed? What if I didn't do anything, and then that person, just because they're not happy with me, and they just accuse me of, like, sexual harassment when I actually didn't do it. But I actually feel it is still important for this to become a law, and for it to become a norm in our society, so that we can actually adapt and learn and grow together.
Yeah. Sorry, Melvin. Before you ask a question, I just want to also highlight as what Dr. Tanusha has actually mentioned. There was actually a case down in the United States of America where a lady, a teenager, or should I say a young woman, actually falsely accused somebody of sexual harassment. And at the end of the whole case, it was found out that the lady was actually lying through her teeth. She was making false accusation, and she was convicted for falsifying a report, and she got, I think she was imprisoned for the things that she did. So these are the scary things as well. I mean, should you are in the innocent, should you didn't do anything, kalau you tak buat apa-apa tapi somehow you terkena juga, itu again the stigma, or should I say the impression that you might give out to the public, right?
I think, Mio, you actually gave the case and point yourself. Because there was a law in place and this person misused it, she actually went to jail. So if there is this law in place, when it starts off, I'm not denying that there will be situations like this where people feel like, okay, sebab I have this law to protect me, I don't like you, I do this. And then when people start going to jail, then people are going to start stop fabricating stories like this. You see what I mean? Just because there is the possibility that people will misuse this law, we cannot say like, tak payah lah. Then anybody will just go and make a complaint, and it's going to damage people's reputation. No, we can't say that. If it is a false complaint, but given that it's a complaint that was properly made to the authorities, it will get investigated. And if the person who lodged the complaint was lying, they will then face the repercussions of making a false report. So there's not that we shouldn't fear this.
Yeah.
Melvin?
Sorry, Doctor say that in Malaysia we have no law enforced yet on sexual harassment. If then something has fall upon you, your advice is that save yourself. But how do we make a stop to it? Saving ourselves could be, let's say that person depends on the job, and of course she have to probably save. Keeping quiet is to save herself. How does she or he make a stop so that person stop harassing? Do you encourage this person to just walk up to this person to speak to them? Have the nerve, to speak to them, stop doing this to me, Or if it's in the big corporations, could they seek the help of HR department to solve the issue?
Yeah. You see, Melvin, given that there is no law, this is a systemic problem. Okay, firstly, again, that's why I say the victim, the person that is going through this, needs to decide, needs to say that, okay, this is something that I am ready to come forward with. I feel safe enough doing this. I wouldn't actually suggest confronting, because it can easily be turned against you. I would actually say go to the persons um, who are responsible for managing the situation, HR, for example. Make a formal report, make a formal police report. If you're unsure what to do, reach out to these organizations that I've mentioned, Awam, Women's Aid Organization, and so on, who can give you guidance on what you need to do to make a complaint. But having said all of that, yes, there is a possibility that they may be unfairly penalized.
I also believe it should be the train or so-called started this sexual harassment campaign in the school itself, so that the students themselves from young, they know what are they protected. I don't know whether I left school too long. In my time, there's no such classes or
no. Even now, there's nothing.
So I guess, the school principals or the education sector should have that. So to protect themselves for the future when they're out in the market, for when they are in the career, so they know what to do. So it's pre-prepared. I believe if I have a chance to talk to the education ministry, have this in mind. Start from school. It's nothing to embarrass, right? Because the students are embarrassed because they don't know what to do. They felt there's something bad, something embarrassed to tell. But if they have these educations from young, I think they are more well equipped when they are out in the society.
Yeah, and excellent point, Melvin. It definitely needs to start in school, where they need to be taught about what is okay and what is not okay, and above all, that their body they have rights to their own body to determine what they feel comfortable and uncomfortable with. I fully agree that sexual harassment training needs to start at schools. But going back to this workplace issue and all that, if you are watching this and you are the boss, or you have or in HR or something, where you are in a position to influence this, you do not need to wait for the law to happen to determine your own policies in your workplace. You can have your internal anti-sexual harassment policy, whatever your organization is. Whether it's an NGO, maybe it's just a voluntary organization, whatever is it, you can have your policy. So that is how we can collectively start the cultural change, even though there is no law in place. So that at least in your place of work, or in your group, or in your team, if there is such a case like this and you have investigated and it's found to be true, you will get fired.
Yeah, very good points of what Dr. Tanusha has actually highlighted there. We're actually running out of time, but before we leave, of course, we want to hear last words from Dr. Tanusha again, and maybe some advice to the victims or to whoever it is that you want to address in order to highlight how serious this sexual harassment issue has become in Malaysia. Dr. Tanusha, your last words, please.
Yeah, I think we have actually gotten to a point where it may even be possible that there is no female out there who has never been sexually harassed. Because remember, verbal harassment and all that, it's become sort of like a cultural norm here, sadly, in Malaysia, where it's okay. It's what? Cari nasib, cari jodoh. It's just a compliment. Even though you know that you're making the other person uncomfortable, whistling while they walk by. You really think that, they feel that like, so nice, they're whistling at me. They would find 10 other roads to jalan to avoid you. So this is serious. This is not funny. This is not complimenting. People actually get really traumatized. I'm involved in this movement called Tampil Bersuara, which is organized by youths from different parties and also independent individuals and so on. And when we launched this, there are even people who are in their 60s who came to share their stories about a sexual harassment incident that happened when they were in school. And they are now in their 60s. Look at how long the trauma has happened. Stays with them. So this is not something that is like, okay, it happened and then like, okay, you move on with life and so on. No, this is actual, traumatic factors. And again, if this is happening to you, I am really sorry. I empathize with you. Your feelings are valid. Let me start by saying that, like, whatever you're going through is real and valid. And if you need help, please reach out to Awam and women's aid organizations. Their helplines are there. If you don't feel ready to come forward physically, you can call and they can guide you on what you can do. Keep yourself safe. And also one important point is that, like Melvin, while we were talking about so many things, I think we also need to address that sexual harassment can also happen between same genders. So, even if it's between a man and a man or a woman and a woman, if you feel uncomfortable, that is still sexual harassment. It doesn't just need to be between opposite genders.
I will be feeling that for the last few years. Everyone call me uncle. Start calling me uncle.
Ayo.
Okay, that's actually another topic in mind if you want to go down that road. Thank you so much, Dr. Tanusha Francis Xavier, VP
Thank
of
you.
MUDA, for coming on board together, talking about this very serious topic that we have today. We should not, discourage, or should I say, we should not just sweep this topic under the rug. We should voice it out more often than not. And what has Dr. Tanusha has actually mentioned, if you guys just go on to awam.org.my, or you guys can also go to wao.org.my, which is the women's aid organization, that you can actually get help from these people, because they can guide you, they can actually help and assist you in any way possible. But whatever it is, voice it out. Do not keep it just to yourself, because you don't want to pressure yourself. You don't want to just live in that particular bubble. You do want to voice it out and go through the proper channels, and not just use social media to rant out your issues. Go to the proper channels and go to the proper organizations and the authorities for them to able to assist you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tanusha, for coming on to the show. And thank you, Melvin, again, for being my partner in crime for this, for today's episode. Thank you, guys. You have a good day and have a great lunch. Thank you. All right, guys, that was it. That was together with Dr. Tanusha and together with Melvin, talking about, again, sexual harassment and how this topic is very, very important. As I mentioned, should you guys need to seek help, again, as mentioned, go to Awam and go to Women's Aid Organization for you guys to get more help. That's it for today's edition. Hope to see you guys again tomorrow. My background is becoming very blurry and fuzzy. Do not worry, you'll be seeing this face again together with Melvin's. Hopefully tomorrow, same time, same place at 12 o'clock. Do not miss out. Mio Adlan signing out for What's for Lunch. Enjoy your lunch. Take care now. Goodbye.